Hamas, apparently.
Hummus.
Yeah, right, they're after them, but the collateral are the civilians, right? So is that the mindset to this? You know what, you guys are collateral, you just got to deal with it.
I think a good portion of the community just thinks like that. And then you'd find a small minority that is more so educated as to why we should be boycotting particular companies and businesses. And if you ask like a good majority of our pro-Palestine community why we are boycotting particular companies, they're like, don't know.
General dialogue. It's always been very formal,
big
either
words,
protest or in a parliamentary setting or whatever it is. But we said, look, you know what? The average Joe doesn't follow the political side of it all. They don't really care about what this prime minister or this president's saying.
Yep.
Similarly, they won't be attending every protest. Some people have never attended a protest before.
Correct.
So there needs to be a forum where we're having a chat more just to give people some context, background.
Yep.
Because even though obviously this has been a big deal for so many people, there are still people out there who say, what's the fuss? What's all this about?
They don't understand.
There's been a war there forever and a day.
Yeah. People are just like, oh, it's another Middle Eastern conflict.
Exactly. It may have spiked in activity or whatever it is, but it's nothing too significantly different. A few years back, we had the Arab Spring. We've always had a conflict in Israel, Palestine. It's always been the case. So that's where we're approaching this from.
Yeah.
To say, well, let's have a more generalistic conversation about it.
Are you Palestinian?
I'm not.
What are you?
Guess.
Arab country?
No, I'm not saying.
Oh, damn. Your name's Laura. Are you read it?
No. But I do get that asked a lot.
You're not Australian, are you?
No. Hell no.
Syrian, maybe?
Close. Lebanese. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't get Lebanese often because of my name.
Yeah.
I do get that question a lot. You're a revert? Nope. Muslim born, alhamdulillah. But I don't know what happened to my dad. He's just like, I'm naming Laura, and then my brother's name is Muhammad. So.
Yeah.
That's so strange.
I know.
I think that's common even in Indonesian families where the kids' names are just Western names, but they're born Dinkirai Muslims.
Yeah, I didn't grow up in a very Muslim household or a practicing household. So like even the hijab, like my mom didn't wear the hijab till like a few years ago. I only wore it a few years ago. So the whole concept of even the Palestine thing, it's just been so amazing and overwhelming at the same time because it's brought us a lot closer to our religion without even realizing, especially that the Palestinian struggle is literally something that is mentioned in the Quran. So you find yourself naturally referring back to it, referring back to the Quran, whether you like it or not, because there's victory in there. We're promised victory.
Yeah.
And I love how, I try to, as much as I can, incorporate the religion into the whole struggle. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm definitely, I'm partial Syrian. So my grandmother is Syrian.
Yeah.
Lebanese, and my grandmother's also partial half Brazilian, so half Brazilian, half Syrian.
Brazilian.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a mix.
Come to this pod, I'm like, oh, she must be a reader. I want to hear that story.
Yeah.
That's still that.
Gone.
It's gone.
I do have quite an interesting story growing up, with regards to how, like I was saying, I don't have a Muslim background. It was never there. And my dad never enforced it. Even prayer and everything, it was never something that was even discussed. So I found my way to Islam, even though I'm born Muslim. So I had to find my way to it. When I went to an Islamic school for 3 years, didn't like it, and that didn't even help me get closer to my religion. It was just like, I can't stand this school, because we were forced to wear the hijab, and I didn't wear it. So I ended up just going to a public school, and then what really brought me closer to my religion is when I started doing my charity work. That's when everything changed. And my life, my whole life changed. And it's the best thing I've ever done.
What do you do for charity?
Yeah.
So I founded this charity 3 years ago.
Your own charity?
Yeah. I didn't want to. But what happened was I had to, because I was raising a lot of money. And of course, with the legalities here and things like that, you have to
make it official.
Yeah. So everyone's just like, just do it. And I did. And it's the best thing. So I would probably give up everything in life, but not that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how important it is for me.
Where does the money go?
We do local work, and we do work in Lebanon. And then we also do with for example, the Turkey earthquakes when they happened. So my friend's got a charity in Turkey as well. So we pretty much collab. Yeah. We raise money and then I would send it through her. And I've had a lot of charities reach out, to be honest, even in the most recent weeks, a lot of them let's work together. And I just say no, because one, I have my own charity. And two, I like to ensure that I know where the money's going. It's very important.
That's a big challenge with charities, particularly in the Muslim community, that who can you actually trust? Because you've seen this as well. The legal threshold to become a charity in Australia is next to nothing. It's not hard to be registered as a charity. Not
anyone.
At all. Anyone.
Foundation was recently founded now for Palestinians, for the Palestinians arriving here. So that's another thing we're working on.
Yeah, it's very easy to set them up, but when the rubber hits the road and you look at, what activities are you undertaking, how are you funding it, how are you structuring all that type of stuff, that's where a lot of the community tend to lose a lot of faith.
Correct.
In that. So that authenticity.
Yeah, I think with our charities, and it's unfortunate, it's good that you're both Muslim, so it's not like I'm talking to people out of my community, because I never would. I would never badmouth, our community. When it comes to our charities, it's unfortunate that they're not very transparent. What we see on social media is a show.
Yeah.
It's not reality, because I work in the same countries that a lot of these charities conduct their work in, and I see what happens on the grounds, and my team members tell me what happens on the grounds. And of course I never share this information, but I'm like, they tell me something, and then what I see on social media, and I'm like, doesn't add up. It's not the same thing. Particular charities, they'll sit there and say to me, and there's some of them are my friends, we pay $1,000 advertisement fees. So they paid to advertise for the Palestinians that were arriving here to push their campaign. They were paying $1,000 a day to advertise for it. And I'm like, so that's $30,000 in 1 month that you guys have spent.
That
Seriously.
could have gone to people in need. Yeah.
And they're like, but we need to advertise. No, you don't. You don't. It's not about growing your social media right now. It's about helping people, Yeah. But like I said, you can't actually discuss this with your community because people will be like, she's jealous or whatever. I just know the information. I keep it to myself. And if someone asks for my opinion on a particular charity, I'm like, do your research. That's it. I go through their annual reports that are available on their websites that literally say where everything is being spent. And if you go through them, you'll find the financial reports. You'll see that there is a ridiculous amount going to advertising fees, going to, printing supplies and office supplies. And it's literally ridiculous amounts.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, but you guys have a 100% donation policy.
Yeah, there's a charity which I follow, and they get a whole bunch of influencers under them. And right now they're on a world tour.
Yeah.
MATW. They're the only ones. I'll tell you why. They reached out to me.
Okay.
Not even 3-4 days ago.
Who's funding all that?
And then 100% donation policy. Who are you kidding?
Yeah.
Who are you kidding? They've reached out to me multiple times, and I just keep on saying no, because see, this was on Monday, paid collaboration, and they want to pay me to go too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I'm just like, nah.
Just expose them, guys. Damn.
Yeah. But it's funny you say that, because it's the same thing that we've been talking about for years.
Yeah.
We run a financial services company every year targeting the Muslim community, and a lot of people come to us and say, okay, well, where should I pay my zakat? Where should I pay my sadaqah? All that type of stuff. And they say, can we trust this charity, that charity? I said, look, at the end of the day, it's not my place to judge these people for what they do. Maybe they're well-intentioned or whatever it is. But being a finance person, I look at the numbers, follow the money, and see where it goes.
100%.
And if you look at that, you look at, okay, $1 goes in, 50 cents goes out to salaries, 30 cents goes out to advertising. What's left?
Yes.
It's usually 5 to 10%. Unfortunately, the real remaining dredges that go out to people who are actually in need, and even that is making a difference. So imagine if we channeled everything. Because you know that age I was saying about if every Muslim paid their zakat, there'd be no poverty left on planet Earth, which is so true.
Of course. That's why Allah has made it a thing.
Exactly. And you look at how much money, how much wealth Muslims have. Muslim countries are loaded. The most valuable companies in the world, some of them, Saudi Aramco, these sorts of companies, they're Muslim companies.
Correct.
Allah has blessed us with so much.
Yes.
And if we channel it properly towards the people in need.
Even our people here, the money, it never gets channeled to the right places. And ultimately, like you're saying, only a small percentage actually makes it through.
Yeah.
And it's very upsetting because I know so many people that literally donate their last dollars. And they're like, look, this is all I have left. And I know that just like they donate to my charity, they're doing the same thing, or other people are doing the same thing to other charities where they're putting their hard-earned money towards a charity that is taking advantage of that money just so that they can go on world tours and do all these magical things. And it's not about advertisement anymore. Like, for example, for particular organizations or charities, you guys already have a name.
Yeah.
You've got you're very famous. You're well known. There's no one out there that doesn't know who MATW is. You need to step back from the advertising and paying for all the marketing now. It's just a matter of, of course you still got to advertise and market and stuff, but you can step back from making it like a whole thing. It's okay, take it easy. You guys, you're raising millions and millions of dollars every single year. You're bringing all these speakers, paying them tens of thousands of dollars to bring one single speaker here. Fine, do it. But put the money to where it goes. And I've heard many, many things, and I'm just like, nope. Sorry, you can email me 500 times. I ain't responding.
Yeah.
Charities are like businesses now anyway.
Oh,
Like the
100%.
CEO gets paid 6 figures. They have like 600 marketing people, and they're all on like good money.
Yep.
And it's a business.
People
at the
ask
end of
me,
the day.
what do you work besides your charity? And I'm like, I don't work for my charity. My time is volunteered in my charity. I don't work, I don't earn anything, and that's because alhamdulillah, like I feel like Allah has blessed me with enough. I don't need to be taking money from charity. And I know that this money that I am raising can be put towards something more valuable. Like I'm like to my parents, if I take that money, I'm going to go buy a Chanel bag with it. No, let it go to someone that needs to eat. And it's not wrong for people that obviously work within charities and thing, but the figures are just ridiculous. Like a graphic designer is earning like 120k a year. I'm like, what do you do for this charity, man? I'm going to become a graphic designer. It's ridiculous, like the figures. But again, I really do appreciate charities though that are very transparent and they say, look, we don't operate on 100% donation policy because we have, let's say, 15% that goes towards admin fees.
Yep.
Perfect. But don't say you're a 100% donation policy if you're not. And all this idea of sponsors, how much are your sponsors paying you?
Yeah.
How much? I'm sure the sponsors are not okay with you guys freaking going around the world for what? And they're in countries that have nothing to do with their work.
Yeah.
What is in Dubai?
It's European countries.
What is in Dubai?
Exactly.
It doesn't make
They
sense.
have enough money to buy.
And the sad thing is that it's an unregulated industry as well. Yourself operating a charity and any other charity out there, it's not as if somebody's actually coming in and auditing to see, okay, well, you made this claim. Did you uphold that claim? Did you make this?
They say that they audit charities, but it's a very brief one.
Very brief.
It's not actual in-depth, and you can just lie. Like even in Lebanon, they say, oh, you got to, here with the auditing, oh, you got to, provide to us, medical, how much you've paid for medical aid and things like that. You can forge things in Lebanon, and you can forge things in almost every other country as well. So, like you said, there's not enough auditing being done, and that's why it's very easy to get away with.
The only thing I think that is properly audited are probably grants that are given to charities.
That's correct.
Then you have to get audited on that regard. But in terms of just cash coming in,
no.
No one cares.
Or where the money goes. If you see what funds are remaining from year to year in their financial reports, there's like 15 mil remaining that is transferred from 2023 to 2024, and I'm like, so why didn't you use that $15 million? Why is it sitting in your bank account? Like, okay, leave $1 million, leave $2 million, but why is it sitting there?
Marketing budget. Yeah.
Ridiculous. But yeah.
I see, Laura, you're very upfront and honest, and I think that's why you're banned on Instagram.
That's a good point. Yeah, they banned the crap out of me.
So why did you get banned? What shady things did you get up to?
I didn't get up to anything, to be honest. They just don't like me, I guess. So, of course, since the Palestinian struggle, I was actually off Instagram. I had deactivated before that.
Right.
So when the Palestinian struggle started again, I was like, okay, I need to step back in and advocate for the right cause. And once I did, I started getting strike after strike on my account that you're violating community guidelines, and their violations mean that I can't post videos of dead bodies and children that are being massacred. And I'm sitting there thinking, what other solution is there to get the message out there? People need to see this stuff. So of course I didn't back down, and I continued to post, and eventually I was getting warning after warning, and that never stopped. I got about 15, maybe 17 warnings, and
They gave you a lot of warnings.
Yeah.
It's quite generous of them. I'm not gonna lie.
it is quite generous. And then they hit me with a notification saying your account may be deleted. And I still didn't stop. And then eventually they just suspended my account, and they sent a notification to say that your account has been disabled. And I had to review or verify myself to get it reinstated. So I did. I got it back in 7 hours, which was great. And shortly after, I had a post about, it was exposing a Telegram channel, a Zionist Telegram channel, that were mocking the Palestinians, dead Palestinians, and literally just making the biggest joke out of them. And I had screenshotted, because I was on that Telegram channel for quite some time, and I had screenshotted some posts and posted it to my Instagram. And that was up, and they hit me with a warning that your account may be deleted, and seconds later I was still reading the notification, my account was gone. So I
Gone
think
forever now?
we're working to get it back. I've had 2 people work on it. They both work for Meta, but I'll probably get it back, but it's just going to take some time.
Are you uploading these sort of things on your backup
Yeah.
account? How's that going? Any warnings?
Not yet. I think they're just like, oh, we're just going to leave her alone.
Yeah.
She's not going to stop.
Where do you think this sits with this whole freedom of expression, freedom of speech, all that type of stuff? And when you post something, because technically, like, have you actually read through the community guidelines to see, okay, well, what is...
I don't think
above
anyone reads
board?
those, man.
Yeah, but again, you're being pulled up on it 17 times. So
Yeah.
if you go back and have a look at it, you know what?
I have had a look at a little bit of it, to be honest, and not the entire thing. I definitely think it is a violation of freedom of speech, because you look at the other side, and they have not ever complained about receiving a single warning on their accounts. And they've been posting about Palestinians.
Yeah.
They've been mocking the Palestinians. They've been making a joke out of the whole thing, right? Even their comments. And it's never been an issue for them. But when we speak up about it, it's a problem. And we get hit with warnings. We get our accounts disabled. And like, I can't even talk, you know. There's journalists in Gaza that have like 2 million followers, and they've had their accounts removed. Sean King was another example. He had like 5 million or so followers. He got his account removed. You know, so yeah, it's definitely a violation of freedom of speech, and I don't understand why they're so persistent on suppressing our voices. And they can only suppress so much. They suppress me on one end, and I'm jumping out here.
Are they suppressing the voices? Or are they just trying to stop you guys from posting dead bodies?
No, definitely not just posting the dead bodies, because if we're just going to talk about that, one fine example of a violation that or they classified as violation is that very post that I told you about. It didn't even have pictures of dead bodies. It had pictures of Zionists, a Zionist Telegram channel with 125,000 subscribers that was mocking the whole conflict and making a complete joke out of it. And that was literally my last strike.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when they
Even posting a Hamas update for them is not okay. So, but that's like literally just conveying news. It's not like I'm condoning it. I'm just conveying they've posted this. They've posted it on their, you know, Al Jazeera posts it.
Yeah.
So why can they post it? Why can't we post it? But they can't sit there and ban Al Jazeera Instagram channel. But they can do it to us. Yeah.
Now that we're on the topic of, you know, journalists, dead bodies and whatnot,
Yes.
I wanted to ask, it was on the brief, is that the right way of going about it? Where a lot of these journalists look like heroes, right? They laud as heroes. They become literally mini celebrities now.
Yeah, correct.
And they post a lot of photos and videos of children's dead bodies. And when I've seen it, it's horrific.
Yes.
It's terrible what's being done. And it is awareness, right?
Yes.
Like, I didn't know it was that bad until I saw those images and videos. But is that the right way of showing awareness? You know, showing someone's dead child's body out, you know, all around the world. Is that the right way of going about it and spreading awareness?
Because some would say that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's dishonoring a deceased person.
Correct. I have 2 sort of ways of thinking about this. One is agreeing with you that it is somewhat dishonoring and, violating the dignity of these people, especially when it comes to adults. So when we see photos and videos of men that are stripped naked or partially naked and they are being belittled and humiliated, that is definitely a violation of their dignity and their honour. But then on the other hand, I'm sitting there thinking, what other option do they have? Do they really have another option but to show us this stuff? Do you really think that they would be happy showing us this stuff? But when you sit there and think, if they weren't showing us this, how's the world going to see the reality as to what is happening? What makes this time round different to 2 years ago in 2021 when Israel was bombing Gaza? The only difference there was that social media wasn't that heavily involved and there wasn't journalists posting about this. So they really don't have another option. When these dead bodies, they're like, look at what's happening. See with us, share our pain. And but I think in terms of preserving dignity, I think I would focus a lot more on preserving the dignity of the adults because these people can be still alive. 10 years down the track, these photos are going to be remembered and their faces are going to be out there. But in terms of children, I think I don't see anything wrong with it.
I see where you're coming from, because when Russia started the war for Ukraine, the Ukrainian people were taking videos and photos of people being blown up as well.
Yes.
Just a random bomb on some bicycle guy, and then that was going everywhere. And those accounts weren't being suspended. Like everyone was hating. It was almost like you had to hate on Putin, right?
Yes.
And if you do, your algorithm pushes you up,
Yep.
right? And when the Muslims do it, you get banned. So I do see where you're coming from. But Muzzammil, I'm going to ask you a question though. Let's say this situation happens to you, right? And you have 2 daughters, and let's say both of them die, God forbid, and someone's recording, a journalist is recording you crying to your daughter's dead bodies. Would you feel insulted? How would you react? Or would you be like, I don't care what's happening, my daughters are dead, I don't care what you do with it, spread their awareness?
I don't know. For me, I've always been a pretty private person, so I wouldn't want a camera in my face at that moment. Like you are so vulnerable at that moment.
Correct.
You've just been stricken with life's worst calamity. Like as a parent, you think about it, there is nothing worse that could happen in your life than like
Losing
you getting
a child.
injured or being affected. That's something else.
Yeah.
But your child, that means the world to you.
Absolutely.
Anything happens to that kid, that you're virtually dead.
Correct.
So no, I wouldn't take too kindly to that, and that's why like I've personally, because you learn how the algorithms work on social media and whatnot, and to preserve my own mental well-being, I've chosen not to engage that much with a lot of the feeds, because like, you know what, I don't want to, because we unfortunately all have this habit where before we go to bed, what's the last thing we're looking at? Instagram, TikTok, whatever we're looking at, and you don't want to go to bed with those images flashing through your mind and trying to say, okay, well now I need to put myself to sleep and then I need to wake up rejuvenated tomorrow morning and get back into work or whatever it is. It's really not good for your mental well-being.
I agree.
And that's where we're seeing a heightened amount of people coming back with, mental well-being challenges, mental health issues off the back of this, because they're just pumping their minds with this content and they don't have a way to manage their emotions and feelings.
Correct.
And that's why they're just feeling helpless and lost.
Yeah, which takes me to my next point in terms of consuming this information. It got to a point for me where I was consuming that much before I went to sleep, and I'm sitting there crying. And I'm like, and in the morning when I wake up, I feel like I can't do anything. And I feel like it's taking a toll on even my personal life. And I have 2 girls. So seeing images of dead children right before I sleep and filling up my mind with all this information and waking up and I'm like, so what do I do with my day today? And it made me like, this whole 6-week holidays was like traumatizing. It was just constantly seeing these images and not being able to do anything about it. Not being able to stop this, not being able to... And then when I look at my phone, I'm like, okay, I need to step back. And then I'll grab my phone again and I'm looking through more images. And consuming this much data and this much, all these traumatizing images in your mind is very bad for your mental health as well. You need to preserve your own sanity, and that's why it's good that, we step back. We take a break from social media. We like literally just move your phone away and stop stop watching these videos. I got to a point where I would watch only the first few seconds of a video just so I understand what the video is about, but not actually completing the video to the end because I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Do you feel that a lot of your activism and your activities in relation to this have come off the back of that feeling of helplessness, to say, okay, well, I've got my own kids and I'm seeing what's happening to other people's kids and I need to feel like I'm doing something. I can't just sit on my hands and say, well, it's bad, I'm going to preserve my mind from it and forget about it. Yep. I need to be seen to be doing something at least. Otherwise, in all good conscience, I don't feel comfortable with myself.
Yes.
You know?
That's one of the points, of course. I put myself in the shoes of a Gazan mother, because I am a mother, and I'm like, she can't do anything about it. We can. We're sitting in the comfort of our own homes in a safe country, and somewhat of a safe country, I should say now, with all the Islamic hate on the rise. And I just feel like I must do something. Yes, I have an obligation as a Muslim as well to do something, because this is not just a struggle for them. It is a struggle that we should do something about, because we can. We have the ability, we have the capability, we have the strength. And look, not everyone is able to do what I'd say I do, or you might be able to do, whatever. But if you can, you should.
Yeah.
What can we realistically do right now?
In Australia, continue to advocate, continue to just talk about Palestine is very important, regardless of how it's done, whether it be on social media, whether it be sharing a post, attending a protest. The numbers, the pressure that we are putting on our government is very important. Attending not all, but attending what you can in terms of the events that are being put together. You know, right now as we speak, there is a protest at a weapons manufacturing warehouse in Camberfield. That is important because this all contributes to the genocide that is taking place in Gaza.
You know, you speak about protests.
Yes.
There's been a lot of people. Obviously, protests were, especially sort of late last year when this crisis was first beginning and people were seeing the abhorrent nature of what was going on. Protest numbers were very, very high and people were very enthusiastic about the protesting. I think since the turn of the year and the new 2024 starts, people are like, okay, well, I went to 5 protests last year and I did all this type of stuff, and it seems as if the crisis is only getting worse. It's not easing up. Correct. So is there really a point in continuing to protest? If somebody asks you that question, being an advocate yourself, what's your perspective on that? Is it pointless?
It's not pointless. I would never say it's pointless to not attend a protest. People must continue to show up, even if it's one person. Look, of course, with the new year, people have gotten back into work, back to uni. Even with myself, like, unfortunately, I've had to step back a little bit from my advocacy because I'm back at uni. So I don't have all the free time like I had, 2 weeks ago to be posting constantly about Palestine. But I do still make the time. So rather than me, for example, going out for a coffee, I'm like, no, I'm going to put this time to attend this particular event that is made for Palestine, the protest or whatever it may be. We were at Canberra 2 days ago, and the protest didn't have 100,000 people. We had maybe a few thousand, but the minute we received a message saying we can hear you from inside Parliament, it was so surreal. Like, yes, our voices are being heard. So yeah, we weren't 100,000 people, but it could be just that one voice that made a difference, and we were heard inside. And the Greens actually came out and they, spoke with us, and then they went back in, and Labor was considering the passing of a ceasefire motion as well. So, it's pressure, it's constant pressure. You just got to keep on going. It's very important to continue showing up. The numbers have definitely dropped, but that should not deter anyone from continuing to advocate and to show up for Palestine.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I feel like this year it's died down a lot.
Yeah.
Not sure why. Maybe people are just over it. I don't know what's going on. Maybe the hype is dying. Because the unfortunate thing is, there's a very famous person on Twitter, and I don't want to name him, but he was trending all the time about this whole Palestine thing, right? And he'd continuously advocate for Palestine, and put down the other side. And he put a tweet up, and the way he ended that tweet was, so the tweet was, we need to do something about the bombs, the kids are dying. And then the way he ended the tweet was, subscribe to my premium, right? It's almost like influencers, famous people are using this platform to make money.
I agree.
Right? To make tons and tons and tons of money. And even in Australia, I'm seeing so many influencers out there that are selling Palestine-related T-shirts at a premium money. Where's that money going? God knows, right? People are making money off this, right? There's some amazing organizations out there that are doing things for free, and I think we all know them.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people also out there that are making money out of this.
Using it for their own agenda.
A lot of money.
Yeah. And that's another thing that really gets on my nerves, because right now people are dying in Palestine, and there's bloodsheds, there's pools of blood. There are 30,000 plus people that have been massacred. The ultimate goal right now should be to find a way to free Palestine, not make money at any cost. And I understand that, of course, people that do this as business before the Palestine conflict, that have, they make T-shirts and signs and things like that. I get it. This is your business. By all means, please go ahead and continue business. But please don't use it to further your agenda or grow your Instagram accounts. It's not about that right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to touch on the boycotting for a bit.
Yes.
I've never understood this concept,
Yeah.
right? Maybe I didn't research enough to figure it out. But when I look at boycotting, right, and when the rallies happen, people are putting like stickers on Starbucks and whatnot, do not support, blah, blah, blah. That Starbucks particular one is a franchise that's owned by an everyday mum and dad. Why should we punish those people? They're missing out on money, they're losing money. Yeah, we're trying to destroy the corporate, but the collateral is a lot of everyday mums and dads that's worked hard to save up, buy that franchise. Also McDonald's as well, right?
Yes.
They're everyday mums and dads, right? They're normal people, right? I know people that work at McDonald's, and I've met their bosses that own the McDonald's. Such amazing people, like nice people. Like, why should they get punished? Or is it almost like, you know what, for the greater good, we just gotta
the collateral damage.
Yeah, the collateral damage, and so be it. Because if you think about it, Palestine is, all the civilians dying, they're collateral as well, right? They're after Hamas apparently.
Hamas.
Yeah, right. They're after them, but the collateral are the civilians, right? So is that the mindset to this? You know what? You guys are collateral. You just got to deal with it.
I think a good portion of the community just thinks like that, and then you'd find a small minority that is more so educated as to why we should be boycotting particular companies and businesses. And if you ask like a good majority of our pro-Palestine community why we are boycotting particular companies, they'll be like, I don't know. We're just boycotting them because they're not,
it's a trend.
because they support Israel. But how? They don't know. They can't answer that question. And even with Starbucks and Macca's and things like that, I'm all for boycotting any companies that do support Israel one way or another. And a lot of them, but people forget to differentiate between direct targets and indirect targets. So, when it comes to particular ones like Puma, recently they've dropped their contracts or something with, I think it was, can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was like Albert Systems or something. I think they were working with a particular weapons manufacturing company, I'd say. Don't quote me on it. So they recently dropped their contracts, and these are the ones that we should be focusing on. So like that protest that is happening right now in Camberfield, you'd find like 200, 300 people there. No, that's where there should be 5,000 people. On Sunday, you'd find 5,000, 10,000 in front of Starbucks. Don't worry about Starbucks. Starbucks isn't sending money to, fund the genocide. Really, they're not. But our community doesn't focus on, educating themselves on where their efforts should be. And this is where a lot of their efforts are just go with the flow, like they're undermined. Focus your efforts on places that matter. You want to stop seeing bloodshed in Gaza? Well, stop the weapon manufacturing here in Australia. Put pressure on your government. in any way possible to cut their ties with Israel. Don't worry about Starbucks. Don't worry about Macca's. I get it. Boycott them. I've stopped eating Macca's 4 months ago because I found out that they do send royalties to Israel. And I'm like, no, I'll stop. That's fine. But protesting in front of them every single day, it's not achieving much.
You know what's interesting about the boycotting situation is we were in November, December last year, because of work and things, we had a number of trips into the Middle East, and we found it, unfortunately, quite a glaring issue that in Western countries, we as Muslims are boycotting Macca's, Starbucks and whatnot. You go to a Muslim country, there are people queuing up there. You go through Dubai airport, Macca's is chockers.
I know.
You go to in Jeddah, Riyadh, wherever it is, Starbucks.
The lines there are like from here to there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, the Muslim people who their revenue contribution to Starbucks in Australia is 0.00 something, whereas in the Middle East, that's the bulk of their revenue because it's an entire Muslim consumer
Probably like
base.
100% of it.
Exactly. So, but then why aren't we seeing that? These are meant to be Muslim countries, Muslim people, more traditional, conservative, whatever it is.
You can't really blame the people there when the actual leaders of these Muslim countries have been okay and silent over the death of 30,000 Palestinians. You can't blame the people there when their leaders are literally just sitting back and just...
Why do you think they're sitting back?
I'm conflicted on this one. I do think that there is some khair, some good to come out from the Arab leaders, but not now in the rebuild phase, which is a bit upsetting because, you know, we had to lose so many people and we're continuing to lose people as we speak to get to the stage of rebuilding Palestine. The Arab leaders, I feel, because they do have a lot of sort of diplomatic and economic ties with the Israelis, so they try to, I guess, not upset them. King Faisal, which was massacred sometime in the 1970s, when he actually, at the time they were bombing Gaza, he stopped the oil exportation to the US. And they threatened him to bomb their oil production mines and whatnot. And he said, that's okay, you can bomb us. We can go back to eating dates and water. But you guys can't. So that was enough to put pressure on them to stop them from bombing Gaza. So ultimately, yes, the Arabs do have the power to stop this. They had the power to stop this from day one, but they didn't. And that's something that no one will ever forgive them for.
Any particular country?
I won't name particular countries, but I think we know which countries do have those ties with Israel. And it's sad because as well, at times where, you know, we were seeing in the beginning phase of the Gaza conflict after 7 October, we saw a lot of dead bodies and things like that. And at the same time that was taking place, a country like Saudi Arabia was hosting celebrities and concerts. And I'm sitting there thinking, where is your morality? You're an Arab. We have people that are non-Arabs advocating, sleeping in the streets for Palestine. And the actual Arabs are sitting back and be like, we're just going to celebrate Cristiano Ronaldo and his wife and give them rewards and awards and do all these ceremonies. And I'm like, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. It doesn't, my brain cannot fathom why they do that.
Are you surprised by the amount of empathy and support shown by fellow Australians, Western white Aussies, towards this cause?
I am. And it has helped me even shift my sort of understanding and acceptance of particular groups in the community. And I'm very appreciative, and I think we all are, of the support that we see and the continued support. Like, I am almost at every protest, almost. And if I'm to be completely honest, I feel like the good majority of them are actually white people. Yeah. Without offense, but yes, the majority are white people, and it's amazing, very overwhelming. And again, I've had this discussion with a few of my white friends, and we always talk about how hard it is for them to have come out and do this. As an Arab, it's not hard for us to come out and support Palestine because we should. Like,
Yeah, it's natural.
it's natural. But when a white person does it, automatically they receive a lot of hate. You're brainwashed. You're being paid money. All this stuff that they try to talk about and they try to accuse them of. So it takes a lot of courage for them to actually rock up to those protests, being a white person. And even not just white people, even Jewish people. I have so much respect for them day in, day out, that rock up and do what they do. And, you know, last week's protest on Sunday, one of our people, she's now my friend, she was telling me that she's Jewish and she's refused by her community. Her community doesn't even want her. They don't even acknowledge her anymore because she's pro-Palestine. And she rocks up still, unwavered, day in, day out, and does what she needs to do. She was actually running one of the campaigns there for collecting signatures for one of our petitions.
Well.
Yeah. So it does take a lot of courage for a white person to come out. And I'm so appreciative of that.
Yeah.
More so than the Arabs.
Do you feel that, okay, in the same context then, that a lot of the more emotional messaging that's been sent out by the Muslim community can sometimes incite violence and hate towards the other side? And also, in a way, it paints a target on innocent Muslims here as well, and in other Western countries.
Yes.
We've seen that sometimes by becoming loud and proud about our message and everything else, it inadvertently places a target particularly on our sisters. Hijab wearing sisters and whatnot get abused, get, you know, all sorts of threats and this and that. We need to ensure that obviously the message that we're putting out there is not inciting violence and hate and does not then have the opposite effect on us as a community.
Yep, I agree. And if I'm to talk about my personal experience, I've received death threats for 3 months straight now. So it didn't start in the first month. It started the second month up until now. Death threats, constant hate speech, whether it be via message form, DMs on Instagram, comments on Instagram. Mainly I'm active on there. And even in public, even in real life, you know, this is a problem for them. This is a problem for them. I was at the airport 2 days ago and people like eyeing me out. And you're right, you know, conveying the message in the most eloquent and respectful way is very, very important. But I just feel like in terms of how they want to convey the message, we don't have control over that. So we convey the message. And look, if I'm to be completely honest, our community has done an amazing job at being so resilient in the face of all this oppression, even the mainstream media. You know, we've done an amazing job and we've put up with so much. I've had two articles made by Sky News about me calling me a disgrace, calling me a Hamas spokeswoman, calling me a terrorist sympathizer. The most recent article came out yesterday after I attended the Canberra protests. So they called the Greens a disgrace for standing with me, sharing the stage with me as a speaker. So yeah, we are subject to this hate, and it's very unfortunate because you know, we do try to convey the message in the right way, but you don't have, like I was saying, you don't have control over how they want to interpret that message and how they spin it. And we all know that the mainstream media has done an amazing job at spinning almost everything that we say. So you can only do so much. Just continue to say what you need to say in the most respectful way, and also not just in the most respectful way, in a way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And once that's done, doesn't matter. Convey it however you like. They're going to hate on us regardless.
The thing is, we live in their world. If you really think about it, we live in the Jews' world. They run the world, right? You look at the biggest CEOs of the biggest companies; they're all Jewish, right? You got so many Jewish politicians, like Zelensky, Jew, right? That's why he's getting princess treatment. Like, if you're a Jew, you get treated well, and if you say anything against that, they come down smashing, right? That's why there's a lot of Muslim companies out there, big companies, that haven't said anything, right? Because if they do, they know
they're losing.
They're going to lose out. They're going to lose out so much, and they think, like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth to speak up? And I think that's a lot of things that people don't realize as well. I know a lot of there's been a lot of hate towards Muslims that don't speak up, especially the celebrity Muslims and whatnot.
DJ Khaled.
Yeah, well, he's another one.
Mufti Menk,
And
another
if you
one.
look at him,
He's copped it.
I love Mufti Menk.
Yeah.
I love him, but I'm still surprised till today that he hasn't said anything. But on the other hand, I understand it because he lives in the
we just
Arab
don't know who their
countries.
boss is. Honestly, you don't
Yeah.
know who their boss is. Like DJ Khan, his recording studio is probably run by a Jew, and if he says anything, he's gone. He's out.
Honestly, look, I might have touched base on this in the early stages in terms of speaking out, regardless, and I think faith plays a big factor in this. When you are a believer of that, when you give up something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will replace it for you with something that is better. And people like, DJ Khaled, what would he even know?
He barely has faith in him.
Where is his faith? So you can't really blame him.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, he's a seller anyways, like a long time ago. It's not the first time he's been quiet about speaking up about Palestine. But I genuinely think that people should speak up about Palestine regardless. I've seen so many people, so many white people that have lost contracts, work contracts, that have been fired. How come they were okay with being fired and losing contracts, but an Arab can't do it? But an Arab can't speak out. And that's why a lot of hate is projected towards them, because you're Arab, you have an obligation. This is a struggle that is not just Arab, even especially Muslim people, Muslim celebs and influencers. This is something that is literally mentioned in your Quran. And we often forget that this is a part of our jihad. Jihad is not only fighting on the battlefield. It's not just that. Jihad is wearing a headscarf every single day, knowing that you're subject to hate, because I live in a Western country. So this is also a part of our jihad when you are fighting for the Palestinian struggle, because this is the Middle Eastern conflict that we grew up learning about and hearing. So I think it is very important to speak out regardless of who you are, what position you hold. We've seen politicians in Parliament that have spoken out. Mehreen Farouki, she spoke out. She wasn't scared to lose her position as a politician. But on the other hand, we've had members of parliaments and merely councillors in councils that have been scared to speak out, and they've just remained silent because they don't want to lose their position as a councillor. So I think if you're going to lose your position, you're going to lose it regardless of who you are. But it's very important to speak out, because this is you will be remembered for this. 10 years down the track, I will be remembered for speaking about Palestine, and you will be remembered for doing this for Palestine. And the person that stayed silent will also be remembered for their silence, and that's where the morality is going to be like.
Do you really think that though? Because there's always these times, right, where Palestine will get a massive bombing every few years, right?
Yeah.
Something happens, people jump on the bandwagon,
Yeah.
boycott this, do this, and then it dies out. Everyone forgets it. Everyone will go back to eating Maccas and whatnot. And I suspect that's going to happen again, right?
It's already started happening.
Yeah, it's already started happening. It's already, like, we're already seeing it. So people are going to go back to Maccas, like Roxburgh Park Maccas is halal.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see it filled up again with hijabis and stuff, right? Like, people forget and they move on. They jump on the bandwagon, they grow their followers, they make a couple of bucks, and then they get back to their life.
Yeah.
Right? So honestly, I just think it's going to go back to normal. That's just how it is, right? That's how people are
I think
now.
this time round, I wouldn't say it's going to go fully back to normal, because this is the most time I've ever seen the world speak up about Palestine. And not just that, so much has been, taught through this struggle. We've seen international law be challenged. We've seen our politicians be challenged. We've seen our government, be complicit in the genocide. We didn't even know about these things 2 years ago. So if you look back 2 years ago, which was in May of 2021, we don't know about this warehouse in Camberfield that was manufacturing weapons for Israel. But now we do, and no one's going to leave that warehouse alone. They went there weeks ago, and they went there last week, and they're there this week.
That's a stupid place to build weapons. That's where all the Muslims are.
Muslims in the north.
Why would you do that?
And there was one single white person. She was standing up on that building, and they're like, the police were trying to bring her down. They're like, get down. She refused every time. They're like, if you come near, the minute you come near me, I'm going to jump and I'm going to suicide. She was up there for a solid 7 hours. She didn't get down.
Wow.
Block the dock. We weren't blocking the docks 2 years ago. So there's definitely a very it's a bit different this year, this time round. But I do believe that things will go back to normal, unfortunately. But I guess for those that were in it for the right cause, they will never forget who was advocating and who wasn't.
Even now with advocating, it's like, you brought up politicians for a bit, and sometimes I feel like it's so hard to trust the advocating, because they probably want votes or something. Like, what do you want? Right? What do you want? What do you want? And the politicians that don't advocate, they probably have the numbers to see how many Muslims vote for them anyway. So like, I'm not gonna advocate for Muslims because they don't even vote for me anyway. So like, that's why it's so sus. When a politician gets up, I'm like, okay, you want votes, elections around the corner, and the Muslims fall for it, right? And then they get their vote, they go up. It's just
many
crazy.
years ago when he was pretending like he loved Muslims and the Palestinians.
They get the votes.
Look at him now. He's been silent for 4 months.
Well, even recently with the whole voice referendum and all that type of stuff, like the Labour government goes out there, makes friends, and gives additional grants to every Muslim organisation. You know, all your peak, you know, Islamic council groups, community groups, whatever it was. And all the Muslims for a second believe that, look, you know what, this Labour government's our friends, they support us, blah, blah, blah. And how many Muslims went out there, advocated and championed the voice and that referendum? And that's obviously impartial to this conversation. But we genuinely as a community felt that that's the right thing to do. And a lot of people went and did that. Lo and behold, a month later, our place of worship, Palestine, gets blown up. And all of a sudden, same politicians that did all this type of stuff and we felt were in our corner, we go back to them and say, look, how about you return the favour now? Nope.
But that's where, again, education comes into play. Why would our Muslim community think that they even like us or they accept us? Do you think that they like us? No, they don't. They really don't. And it's evident. It's evident in their previous actions, and it will continue to be evident. And I think this is where our Muslim leaders must take a stance. Ramadan is a month away. I don't want to see politicians at our mosques.
They're 100% not.
I don't want to see them stepping with their dirty feet and their dirty shoes that have allowed the bloodshed to take place, and they've remained silent amid the backdrop of 30,000 Palestinians and 11,000 innocent children killed. I don't want to see them at our mosques. I don't want to see them talking their 2 cents into our mosques. I want to see action. Can you action your words? Don't come in our mosques telling us you support us and you love, you're inclusive and you're this. We've seen Scott Morrison do that before. Where is he? He can't stand us. Albanese, where is he? But again, this is where we take that action, because our politicians don't really care. They just want our votes.
We do about political action. That's where I think South Africa's been very, very impressive. To actually go out there at a global stage to stick your neck out as a country. Not even a Muslim country for that matter. You know, Muslims over there are a small minority. But to be the only
there are a lot of Jews there as well in South Africa.
But to be the only country in the world that's actually come up and said, look, you know what, we actually need to look at this at a global, political, humanitarian level and actually call this for what it is. And that takes guts.
South Africa has paved the way. And I think they will go on to do amazing things for the Palestinian struggle. And we've seen, you know, South Africa, Yemen, the poorest countries that have stood up in the face of these aggressors and all this violence against the toughest militaries. How much pressure is Yemen putting on all the you know, the exports and the shipping and stuff like that? We're suffering as Australians. Our shipments are being delayed, but that's okay. You can delay our shipment if that means it's bothering Israel. That's fine. So yeah, South Africa has definitely done an amazing job in what they've done so far, and they've I guess opened the eyes about Israel as to what they're doing, but on a legal level. Because before that, everyone's like, you can't use the term genocide because Israel's not committing a genocide. But when the ICJ has ruled that Israel is committing a plausible genocide, there's no arguing anymore. You can't sit there and say that Israel isn't committing a genocide, or at least genocidal actions. So they've definitely done an amazing job. The
last topic on my side would be what the future holds for Palestine, because right now you look at Gaza and whatnot, it's completely dead. It's finished. The buildings are all the level. It's becoming leveled.
You can see that. Yes.
Right. And are you going to your notes now?
I am, because this one is the most interesting question, and go on with your question.
So it's becoming leveled. And I read an article, I don't remember the exact figure, but they said something like it needs. I can't remember the exact figure. I'm just gonna say, let's say 60 billion. I can't remember the exact figure.
Yes.
Where they need hypothetically $60 billion to rebuild it.
Yes.
I don't envision any country giving that much money to Palestine to rebuild. I don't see it happening. I mean, yeah, like I just don't see it happening. And it's probably been the biggest action that Israel has done against Palestine. And so my personal view, right, is that I don't think there's any way coming back from this, because I feel like Israel has put in a really good effort
to destroy it.
Yeah, to completely destroy that side.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. What you think will happen?
I do think that there is a way back, for sure. And I think Gaza will be rebuilt.
Okay.
But like I was saying before, it's going to need a lot of international support. And this is why we are also putting pressure on our government, yes, to not only call for a ceasefire, which was the initial thing we wanted, but to also cut ties with the Israeli, the whole Israeli government, economic ties, diplomatic ties, whatever they may be, and to also lift the siege, because it's not just a matter of ending this. It's going ceasefire and then done. That's it, and we're going to start rebuilding Gaza. No.
Band-Aid.
No. Yeah, we don't want to band-aid the issue. Yes, we want to see a lifting of the siege, releasing all the hostages that are being held. I'm not calling them prisoners, because the Palestinians are not prisoners. They haven't committed any crime, so they are hostages that Israel is holding illegally, that they haven't been tried for. They don't have access to lawyers. So once all that's done, there's no more Israeli military checkpoints everywhere, and Gaza is finally free. I do think that a lot of countries will step in to rebuild Gaza. It is going to require, of course, a lot of money and a lot of effort, but this is where a lot of which takes me to my next point, this is where a lot of issues will tend to arise as well, because a lot of foreigners will come to work in Gaza. So this is where they will start to bring in, Indian workers and people from China, and this is where it's going to get messy again. So there needs to be some sort of structure that must be followed in terms to continue to rebuild Gaza in the most appropriate way possible, without having all these little conflicts here and there, because having foreigners from all around the world that barely even speak the language, language barriers, and yeah, it's going to be a very, very big task, but it's very much doable. At the end of the day, as long as Palestine is free, we'll find a way. If it means us going there and doing that, we will.
The only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is, you look at how many countries are supporting Ukraine, right? And like no support to Palestine. So it's almost like everyone's just scared of the Jewish state, and like no one wants to get involved. And even when this ends, like, I don't know, I just feel like they have so much control of the world, where it's almost like we could do whatever we want, and you guys just gotta watch, and we'll show you guys how it's done, and we just can't do anything about it.
I think if I wasn't Muslim, I would probably have a lot of fear in that sense. I would be like, yeah, they do control the world. But being a Muslim and knowing that Allah has promised us victory over the Palestinian land is literally everything that I need to hear, and we should all be hearing. And this is where your efforts, you feel like, how can I say this? You feel like you can continue and persevere when you know that victory is promised. If we didn't know victory is promised, you'd be like, this is very...
You'd be doubtful.
Yeah, very doubtful. And another very interesting point is a lot of, white people and non-Muslims have actually reached out to me saying, because your Quran has promised that there is victory in Palestine, it's made us be inclined to learn about Islam. Very interesting. And just before I had my account suspended, I had about anywhere between 360 to about 370, 380 Quran sent out in just 1 month. Which was very, very overwhelming for me, because I do tend to share a lot of Islamic content as well to my page, because in everything that I do, like I said before, incorporate my religion into it, because it plays a factor in everything that I do. Like even being here, I'm in my hijab, you know, it's my identity. And so it's very, very, very interesting when other people do see that, yes, we do have victory, so we must continue. And there is a way back. Inshallah.
Yeah. No, I just agree. Muzza, do you want to say anything about that? You're the scholar here.
I'm just keen to get your perspective on, okay, we go through one day, inshallah, the rebuild phase and all that type of stuff. Will there be a sustainable solution post that? You know, because this has been a crisis, like even when it's seemingly peaceful, there's always trouble brewing somewhere. There's something simmering
Correct.
under the surface.
Yes.
Off the back of all this, and after all this is one day done, do you feel that there's going to be long-term peace in this region?
That's one question that I have not even been able to answer myself at home every time I ask myself that question. Look, the only solution is a one-state solution. It's not a two-state solution. Simple as that. The Palestinian state should go back to the Palestinians, but having said that, the Jews should be more than welcome there to live again how they used to live before Israel stepped in and developed their own state, their terrorist state. They should go back to living, you know, with each other like they were before, in peace. And as for sustaining, look, who knows what the future holds, but everything is possible. I don't have the biggest hopes for a sustainable future for Palestine because, you know, there's a big population there. Where are all these Israelis going to go? How are they going to live together? Knowing that one day these people were enemies, how are they going to live together? Are they going to create like barriers between them? Are they going to share states? What's going to happen? Are they going to be neighbors? This area is for them, this area is for us. How's it going to work?
Practically, how does it?
Yeah.
Tough.
They're going to have to find a way, or I don't know.
And then you have all those displaced Palestinians off the back of this crisis who will then have to be...
There's a lot of bad blood between everyone, man. It's just, if you mix them all up, it's going to be a massive cage fight.
Yes. It's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
I do suspect that this is going to be years down the track. It's not going to be anytime soon. Although we'd love to see a free Palestine today, but I genuinely think that's going to be a long time from now.
Yeah, look, Laura, it's been a great chat.
Yeah.
Honestly,
thank you.
You spoke more sense than a lot of people out there, because coming to hear like the whole boycotting and whatnot, I never really understood why this happened. So you gave some really good insights personally for me, and I'm sure the listeners will appreciate that as well. Look, thank you so much for coming on the Out of Interest podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really
and thank you all for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.